Draft science physics type video. One more anyway. Yeah, I guess before I attempt to go more documentary, I suppose. These interactions are pretty fruitless. Insane redundancies. You say the word kinetic and they don't say something like, well, what's a kinetic? I never heard of kinetic. Instead they just keep insisting that steel ball bearings or something are elastic, and photons and electrons are elastic. Even though the word elastic is for things that we know are complex chemistry, and the stored potential energy is in very long molecules usually. But there's no. It just keeps going back to the same bullshit, and you just end up being redundant because people don't. They won't understand the argument being made as simple as you put it. So I tried to make the arguments as simple as possible, reduce the moving parts, and they just keep saying, well, no, I already proved that didn't happen. Where? You haven't accounted for any of it. You just run away with this nonsense like this. So this is the kind of counter argument you get from these idiots. So the Ma'ul CS guy, Roger Joseph Boscovich, who cares? Well, why is that? I'm supposed to know this three named person? Anyway, has an interesting quote on Lesage gravity. You can find interesting quotes from a lot of people. Darwin's grandfather, you can find quotes by Darwin's grandfather. It's kind of funny. So let's first understand, I haven't argued Lesage gravity. I've fixed Lesage gravity by making it kinetic first, and then by polarizing it I realized it perfectly duplicates magnetism. That's why gravity and magnetism have so much in common. And the reason why they have so much in common is because, yes, they're the same stupid force. The same little particle is creating both phenomenons. So I've unified the two biggies, and frankly, they're the only two. Because electricity isn't really anything but magnetism also. So let's understand, that's what I'm arguing. I didn't even know Lesage gravity existed. I didn't even know of the person. That's a demonstrable fact in the sense that somebody brought up in my comments section on the Amendum channel and said, oh, you're a fool, you're an idiot, this has already been argued, and pointed me to it. I didn't even know, I never even heard of it. When I decided particle makes sense, push makes sense. Alright. So here's the quote. An immense multitude of atoms, thus destined to pursue their never-ending journey through the infinity of space without changing their direction or returning to the place from which they came. So it's all this is like some kind of, like, that's just so bizarre. Like the description of the Big Bang with that little tiny 1/1,000,000th of a second where it expanded 7 million times its size. And then somehow the background radiation, right? We're seeing the echo of the Big Bang. What's it echoing off of exactly? Well, what exactly is it reflecting off of? Well, anyway, in that context, this is laughable, trite. So fucking superficial. So this is how scientists, he's citing this guy. This is what the real scientists do. They break something into a preposterous straw man, okay, and mock it. And that's being a really good, thoughtful, courageous scientist. No, it's being an asshole, a talk shitter. Anyway. The direction or returning to the place from which they came. Like there's some kind of obvious indication that the rest of the universe is going to do that someday. It's all going to go back home. It's going to tap its heels together 3 times and go back home. Is a supposition very little counter Nuanced? Is that it? Counter-nuanced by the usual economy of nature. The usual economy of nature. That's what he said. The usual economy of nature, which is like evolution, right? And we know that evolution always goes back home. I mean, the Earth had methane gas on it, and it'll go back to being methane gas again. That's obvious that humans will evolve into methane gas. They're pretty much just hot air and, putrid, festering poo. And so, yes, that's what it's going to go return home to. Now, there's no evidence that evolution goes in a circle. We're going to turn back into microbes and then back into little plant cells, and then we'll go back into little organisms that eat methane. No evidence whatsoever. So this is what I mean by just a silly straw man, just silly, superficial understanding of science to say nature's usual economy, where, like I said, right now, I guess he understands where the photons are going. Right now, the ones that are going, like like you could take a neutron star at the end of our visible space, and the photons going the other way. He knows they're coming home. He knows it. It's obvious they come home. That's what nature does. Okay, whence is the supply of these innumerable torrents? Whence is the supply? Well, anyone could argue that. Whence is the supply of the original Big Bang? Whence is the supply of anything? And this is the irony of him posting this now, is this: I just gave an explanation in the previous comment video where I explained that, look, if you just do the Big Bang and you have the little bits in the middle and you have the big bits on the outside, you're going to trap a lot of the little bits between the big bits. So yes, in the ends of space, the big bits could still be out there somewhere. Could be. The stuff it's reflecting off of. But I'm just saying, obviously gravity could be weaker in different places in the universe. No reason not. Anyway, whence is the supply of these innumerable torrents? And this is also in the context of this, this Mikul CS asshole will defend scientists who speculate about universes being bubbles. I'm sure the bubble is to keep the universe in the universe. Whence does that come from? What's that silly idea? Bubble universes. Let's all mock it properly. Bubbleverse. I mean, it's just trivial. It's an insult to anyone who calls himself a truth seeker. Must it not involve a perpetual exertion, whatever, of creative power? So there he goes again. No, it just requires bubble, actually. Whatever the background radiation is bouncing off of, yeah, just put some of that there. No problem. See, the background radiation can bounce off of it, then, yeah, sure, the tons can too. Background radiation, ton, same thing. Of creative power, infinite both in extent and in duration. Dun, 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 dun. There's no argument about it being infinite. No one's making the argument that the universe doesn't evolve, that it doesn't even actually collapse in the end. All those are unanswered questions. He's mocking something that's just completely beyond our capacity to be emphatic as a fact. So he knows that it can't be infinite, and he knows that the wall can't possibly keep photons in. He knows these as absolute facts somehow, and it's just he now can mock anything that's might require the universe to be functioning some other way. So what do you want me to say, Mayul? You suck. You're a fucking dickless weasel. Post tripe like that. Tripe. Why not? Why don't you quote religious kooks talking about how Minky? We couldn't come from no Minky. What do you mean the Earth had ammonia gas on it? God can't breathe ammonia. Why'd you quote them, shit for brain? It's just as credible an argument. You puke. Alright, so John Reynolds, who is, yes, I will block him this time. I will get it done. Let's see. I've already read this liar one, so we won't bother with that. I already explained why mock gravity fails when the collisions are elastic. So again, he keeps saying elastic, so I bring up like pool balls in space. Pool balls made out of titanium in space. That's how they function. I mean, I've made the argument over and over. There's no splitting apart. They don't dent. They're not made of rubber. There's no elastic. And he keeps emphatically stating, it must be elastic. Why? I mean, he doesn't understand that the Earth is made of matter, and that the matter is made of atoms, and the atoms are made of these electrons, protons, and neutrons. And that the only elastic part is what we see in our big universe kind of thing. But in the little universe, there's no elastic. All of those movements are real movements from their perspective. They're all kinetic. It's all little hard bits moving. Nothing's bending. And again, even if it doesn't really matter. Elastic just means a slower rebound. It just slows the reflection down. It doesn't change the dynamic of it fundamentally, except you can have a complete absorption, and then the elastic part will mean just the other thing drops out. Well, that means twice as much force went into the thing if there's no reflection. Elastic doesn't stop the force. It's just so stupid. All right, well, there's no point going over and over again, because he doesn't want to accept the existence of the concept of kinetic. All right, so Superior Mind attempted an argument. Not sure where you get this idea from. Collisions are a consequence of underlying mechanics. He describes the behavior is entirely kinetic. Okay, directive. You can think of it as conservation rules. Yeah, well, no point in going into that, because he doesn't understand these concepts of conservation. So just wasted time, pointless. All right, so let me get back to his 2 points. Okay, you've already said the elastic forces are leaky, so to speak. So again, he keeps putting this word, no, the electric forces and magnetic forces. So as I pointed out, the electric forces are nonsense. There's no such thing as an electric force. There's just magnetism. The same would apply to gravity. The magnetism pushes electrons. It adds potential force between the electrons. When you move the magnet, you're turning the field. Let's see how to. I have to be careful how I say it. Point is you can turn a magnet on and off, or you can move the field, that is the plus minus part of the magnet, across the chain of electrons. And what you're really doing is you're just moving the electrons. Technically, they're not necessarily moving in a direction. They're just moving in the sense that they go one too many one way, and then they go back the other way, and then they go one too many the one way, and so they keep knocking one off the cliff, and that one has to be put back in at the other side. And that's why conductors keep doing that. They keep replacing the too much, so the charge always remains the same on the surface of a conductor. Right, how to put this? Yeah, so all you're doing is it's the bits between the electrons. So when you put more force in between two electrons, it spreads out between all the electrons in a conductor. That's why conductors work the way they work, is because all the electrons are tied together. So they're the ones caught in elastic pressure, so to speak. So if there's 10 pressures here and there's only 9 pressures here, they'll balance the pressure. They'll take a little off the 10 and give it to the 9, and then that one will give a little bit to the next one, and that one will give a little bit to the next one. So the pressure is always even. And the pressure is made even by either the number of things between two electrons or the distance between the electrons. So either the electrons get closer, so you can either make an electron closer to change the pressure, or you can take bits in and put bits in between. So there's two ways you change the pressure: changing the distance and changing how much is in between them. And I think it could be argued with conductors that they're rigid for a reason, and that the electron distance is pretty consistent. So what has to change is the amount of pressure between the electrons. All right. But that's magnetism. All right. Not electricity. Magnetism conveys the force to the wire, to the conductor. Okay. Alright, leaky so to speak. The same would apply to gravity no matter how you say the tons reflect. So again, he says no matter how. See, so is that a scientific statement? Do scientists do that? No matter how you explain it, you're wrong. No, no, there's obviously methods that can describe the circumstance. So he's almost like somebody before Einstein's big revelation saying, no matter what kind of bent anything you make, you can't fix it. Or it's even like Einstein saying, making a neutron chain reaction, the odds are like going bird hunting at midnight with your pajamas on inside out. He made a direct statement basically saying you're never going to make a nuclear bomb. And then, 15 months later, a guy makes a neutron chain reaction. Anyway, I'm just saying you want to just show how you don't know what it is to be in any way respectful for the fact that your evidence is not strong, and that you have to be a little bit temperate in your claims, and to say no matter how I explain reflections I can't do it. And that's in the context where I've said the words mock gravity, and I've said go to the Wikipedia page or go to some scientific page and just find out for yourself that, yeah, you can describe it in a way that will perfectly duplicate the charge rules of gravity, which are the inverse square rule. You idiot. Alright, anyway. No matter how you say the times reflect, then Newton's laws would depend on the environment. I don't even know what that could possibly mean. Then Newton's laws would depend on the environment. How so? Yeah, well, I can't even figure out what he's implying there. Newton's laws would depend on the environment. No, Newton's laws depend on the rules being accurately described, and the rule is the inverse square rule, the light bulb rule. I move away from the light bulb 4 times, twice the distance, 4 times less light hits me. My hand, I've done this so many times, okay, here's my hand, half the distance is 4 times smaller. Who cares why? I mean, it's important, but I mean, the fact that that rule is easily stated as, yep, that's a rule. You can't get around that one. There's just no way I cannot. I'm fucked. Yes, my hand's going to get 4 times smaller. It's just the way it is. Because that's how photons are emitted. Yeah, yeah. Anyway, even then, your theory says that if a body is moving, it would block more time. So again, that's not what my theory says, in the sense that it says, and I've said it over and over, that you absorb them. You're absorbing their force. But block is just, it's the same difference. Block, absorb, it's the same difference. The force doesn't get to the other thing. There's a shadow. And the shadow effect can be understood by, I think, a grammar school student. Alright, more tons coming from the side than coming straight at it. Okay, the body is moving and would block more tons coming from the side than coming straight at it. The side argument again. Why would it block more stuff coming from the side? The two sides are even because there's nothing causing gravity on the sides. The force is even. How the fuck does any of this come close to resembling Newton's laws? Okay, so he's just going to keep saying it doesn't. So this is where I would like if a Hoffliday or something had any use at all, which they don't. But this is where like a Hoffliday would jump in and say, no, 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 just do it, okay? It's really a simple kid's experiment even. But I mean, it's just a basic fact that the little bits, and you put two big bits in the field, the two big bits will be forced together just from noise. Just noise. Random vibration. It's almost like one of those electric things with the football, hockey players and shit. There's rules to that kind of shit. Mechanical rules. And that's the way it works out. And like I said, this is something Feynman admitted. So you're saying Feynman was an idiot for admitting it works? What are you saying, idiot? I mean, who do I have to have some real physicist, like an MIT physicist, explain kinetics to you? I mean, they don't do this particular experiment. You know, I think they should because it's a good experiment. But are you realistically saying you're contending it doesn't work? It doesn't happen that way? And if you are, you're an idiot. All right. Sorry, but that's all you can say about you. You're an idiot. When you talk about forces hitting you from the outside, you say that all the while you have not distinguished gravity and the electric forces. Again, electric is not a force. What is an electric force, idiot? I'm sorry. I mean, I don't want to get crude about it, but if you're going to contend that I have used the words electric force, you're way wrong, because in these 400 videos, a lot of videos now, I've not made a lot of videos talking about any electric force. And even when I talked about electricity and conductors, I've always talked about it in the context that you have to use a magnetic force to create electric charge. You have to change the magnetic force. All right. You have not distinguished the two forces. Again, I don't even acknowledge the existence of anything called an electric force. The electric force is the end result of what magnetism does to electrons. If gravity takes place at the subatomic place, well, at least you got that right, then all you're describing is just the forces between electrons and protons, which is the electric force. No, it's not. It's magnet. Okay, that's what they're dipoles, idiot. They're poles. You don't understand? I mean, they're monopoles. You don't understand that they're essentially a magnet. You know, we can't break magnets and create a north magnet and a positive magnet. Obviously, protons and electrons are doing that very thing. They're the two poles of a magnet. So when you put them in the right arrangement, they're a magnet, idiot. I mean, fuck. They're magnetic. Damn. Quite obviously. Alright, anyway. Idiot. Alright, so this argument was another one that's just... it's too stupid. Okay, good fucking God. You already debunked your own fucking paradox already. No, I didn't. So, you're not dealing with the longer line, and the fact that the hole, to go through it, you would have to move faster. The longer line, you'd have to do in the same speed as the straight line. So the straight line is this long. If I bend it at all and have the same planes, longer line. And you'd have to travel it faster than the speed of light to get to the thing that's moving. Anyway, Jesus Christ. So he posts a link to my own video, which I don't understand at all. I mean, the only concession I made was to the Mayul guy, so I guess this is his soccer camp, the wind at 4 o'clock. But and the concession was, well, yeah, I can't prove you're wrong because I can't do the experiment. But you're wrong. Light doesn't travel in this idiotic manner. If I take a laser beam and I move it back and forth really fast, alright, really fast, by your theory, every time I moved it, the photons weren't just going straight where the light was emitted, they were moving in an angle. A little tiny one, but an angle. So if I go 1,000,000 miles away or 1,000,000,000,000 miles away, that distance becomes huge. That my laser pointer isn't pointing at some point in space. It's pointing that way. And I think it's just nonsense that light does that. Light moves in a straight line. When you look at the stars, you're seeing where they were, however long it took the light to get to you. That's where they were. It's not some other place. That's where they were. They actually were there. You're seeing the light from a straight line from where they actually were. Not from how fast they were moving. From the location they were at. Just if you look up in the sky and you look at Venus, you're seeing where Venus was, whatever, 4 minutes ago. I think it's 4 minutes, I'm not sure. But whatever, you're seeing where it was. You're not seeing some place where halfway to where it is now, or all the way to where it is now, or any of that shit. You're seeing it precisely where it was. Alright, so he says 2042. Literally no words are needed. I'd like to see Superior Mind defend this. I'm fucking done. Well, hopefully. Well, you're done anyway. And I did watch the entire video, fuckwits. So I don't even know what that's for. So at 2042, so he can't bother quoting the obnoxious statement. Isn't he just showing that if you could keep perpetually stacking frames, such as that in another absolute frame, you would end up measuring the frame that violates consistency? Well, the point is that this idea that the universe cares about this notion of a frame, that somehow frames were something we discovered. Okay, it's a truth, and we went out and we found this invisible frame truth, which means that the universe isn't solid coordinates. There is no real this way and that way and that way. All those distances have nothing to do with anything real. And all you have to do is make one of these framey things, like you and something else end up going the same place at the same time, which is really hard to do from anywhere outside the universe, right? It's really hard to go the same, have the sameness, because it's hard to do, right? It's hard to imagine. You have to kind of be created in the same place to have any of the sameness stuff. But anyway, you have this sameness thing, and then, okay, because I'm doing the same thing you're doing, we can just forget about what we're doing. All of everything else that ever happened in the past is now erased. I don't have a velocity, you don't have a velocity, we're not going somewhere, nothing's happening. And we can just build a new universe from that point. I'd say, anybody who believes that, I don't know what to say. It's you really think the universe works that way? That just because two things show up and are going the same way, they can annihilate history, annihilate the entire structure of the universe, all the facts. You're not spinning on the earth anymore, you're not in the galaxy going this way, none of these things are happening. You can just say, I'm zero, and everything we do now is free new stuff. Yes, that's silly. And I've already stated it. I mean, there's no point in me saying it over and over again. But it's too easy to violate the speed of light with this frame crap. Couldn't I just sit there and do this argument about going half the speed of light, right? And all I have to do is make another frame where you're going half the speed of light in the same direction. So all I have to do is put you on the surface or something, spinning really fast or something. So, and now your light beam is going twice the speed of light, not just faster than the speed of light, but twice the speed of light. It's nonsensical. You didn't discover something that's real. You just made some idea up that there's not one universe. and with one set of rules. And you're just trying to say that, but light always moves away from me at the same speed, no matter how fast I'm going. Even if I'm going the speed of light, somehow it goes just as fast away from me. It goes twice the speed of light away from me. And you can logically know that can't happen. And the only way Einstein makes that possible, as I pointed out, is by time dilating you so incredibly that 1 minute takes 10,000 years. That's the only way that's possible, that you see the light at the regular right speed. But that's you seeing it. That's you perceiving it. It has nothing to do with the actual facts. Oh, fuck. You know, I just causes redundancy. So he doesn't understand how that's a fair objection to playing this stupid frame game. That's not a fair objection. We must believe in the frame god, because there's so much fucking evidence of frames. Like, well, space wrenches don't obey it, but nothing material obeys it. That's right, because none of those things have a constant speed. So again, I said it before, but see, this is one of those things. These are like the basic axioms. And they don't think it's a basic axiom that the speed of light is a fundament of the universe. It makes time. Time wouldn't exist if it wasn't for the fact that it takes the smallest thing in the universe, forces, a certain amount of time to travel distance. And that's the first law. And they don't have much respect for that law. Distance and time don't matter, because we'll just make the distance go away. And then we can make the time go away. Whatever. It's just, yes, so, you're insane. The reason event function slows down is because all the activities are dependent on the consistency of the force in an absolute coordinate system. Well, that's all you had to say. See, I don't really, the superior mind says things in ways I don't know why he said it that way. But yes, an absolute coordinate system means that if you either believe the universe is made out of reliable stuff, or you believe that it can pop in and out of existence, and space can pop in, space can pop out, this can pop in, this can do that, this, and I would argue there's just absolutely no evidence of galaxies blipping in and out of existence, and the distance between them just going away. No. Alright. I don't know. Causes motion relative frequency shifting. I don't even want to get into that. Anyway, so the wind by 4 o'clock responds. He doesn't quote, he doesn't put in quotes, but here he's quoting superior mind. If you keep stacking these frames, you'll end up measuring a frame that violates consistency. Alright, I'm sure drawing all these frames demonstrates the argument perfectly. So now he's arguing against drawing pictures. So graphing things, making... That's meaningless mush. Don't bother drawing it. Don't bother illustrating it. So don't make an illustration. Don't make animations. Don't make any kind of visual tools. Fine. Just to spell it out, because I apparently have to spell it out. Spell out every obvious detail. So again, he's saying it's obvious that frames exist. That, you know, as soon as I meet up with somebody in the park or something and we walk the same direction together, we've just made a frame. And now we can violate the fuck out of the speed of light. Okay. There's no excuse for using this misleading verbiage and imagery. And so again, misleading how? So I make the point that I used a bus, driving on a train, going on a plane or whatever. You could just use the argument that you're on a spinning earth and then the Earth is spinning around the sun, and then the whole solar system is spinning, and then the whole galaxy is spinning, and then the whole cluster of galaxies is spinning, and that all those multiple frames can add up to a lot of velocity. But my argument would be is that that's one of the tricks of the universe. You know, I'm not going to make this as a postulate of my theory yet, because I haven't done it. I haven't worked it out with some drawings. But the theory would go something like sort of Newton's equal but opposite reaction law, that you really can't have, it really can't get out of control in one direction, because every time you create spin in one direction, you create something spinning in the opposite direction, technically. And those things would end up mixing in this mixing bowl. And so as you're acquiring prejudice in one direction, the system, just as it kills the momentum of an electron, the system, the field energy, is imbalanced. So if there's two kinds of coins in the world, nickels and dimes, and they come and hit your house randomly, okay, so many nickels a day, so many dimes a day, and it's the same. But then you start collecting nickels. Then in the future, more dimes are going to start hitting you, because you've collected the nickels. And so the balance is going to find you. The universe likes balance. You know, it's be wrong to say it seeks it, but the tendency is for imbalance to be obnoxious to the function. Okay, just to spell it out for you. But even then, your own generous interpretation doesn't even work. There'll be no proof of that, I'm sure. You're both applying classical frames. No, I'm saying that any frame, well, I'll just finish the sentence. You're both applying classical frames to where Lorentz transformation should be applied. How does a Lorentz transformation change the longer distance into the same distance? It doesn't do that. So just saying Lorentz transformation every time you don't like somebody's argument is another one of these bogus moves by these people. They keep trying to engineer this nonsense. Lorentz transformation is just reversing the inverse square law for time dilation. It doesn't transform anything. It doesn't do anything. It's useless to the argument, because again, we're not talking about perception now. We're talking about what physically actually happens in the universe. I didn't describe observers. That's why I separated the two sides of the spaceship, and I just said it's two things moving. Because I'm trying to get away from this stupid idea that you can change the rules of what really happens because some guy doesn't see things right. It's not about what you see. Well, it is, in the sense that the photon either goes through the hole or it doesn't. So I'm just saying there's no confusion there. The outside observer can't see it miss the hole, and the inside observer can't see it go through the hole. So I gave you where it's not possible to disagree. Right, but even the classical frames transformation should be applied. Well, again, they would only relate to time dilation, which would be dilation of your ability to perceive the events correctly. That's why you're getting transformed. You're not getting transformed by the Lorentz transformation because you need to correct your ability to see right. You're being distorted by it. Your clock is being broken substantially. And again, if I just put a window outside the ship, you'll see the rest of the universe just speed by in a little blue streak and it's gone. You'll know you're the one fucked up, because you just got transformed. Stupid fuck. If only he actually understood the math instead of drawing those boxes everywhere. So again, just insult the idea that, oh, here, you're making the illustration even for dummies. Here's the for dummies version, and you still can't follow along. You still can't tell the difference between a line this long and a line this long. So yeah, fuck you. Alright. Superior mind. By the way, based on psychological patterns, I'm pretty sure that William guy has a lot of sock accounts. Yes. It's possible much of your opposition is actually one troll. Well, it's clear that there isn't... Very few people are getting it. That's a fact. And lots of people have some regard for physics because they think these are smart people. I mean, they went to college and they learned all this abstract math and they did all these... So, yes, they're just big, giant brains. And they're not. And what they filled their head with is like some minister who can quote verses out of the Bible. Well, gee, that's impressive that you know all of these things, the Psalms, all by heart. But it's a complete waste of neurons because these premises are stupid. Alright. In just the way that Jim spends his time in science media for money, Draft Man spends his time debunking media, not science. I don't know what that means. Perhaps he can be stimulated out in the woods, so he can be. Fuck you. Just fuck you in this crap of a comment. Goodbye, cab. I mean, I play MIT scientists, so now MIT scientists teaching at university are media. No, they're not the media. I haven't played a single media clip. Shit. Alright, so he calls them tonons, T-O-N-N-S. Ton would be okay, but whatever. Would not go a constant speed in Gary's universe. So again, I can't, so we know that photons go a constant speed. I named tons after photon, and now he's saying they can't go a constant speed. Even if the Mach gravity collisions were elastic, so again he keeps saying it like, even if the Mach gravity collisions were elastic. What do you mean? I've already argued over and over again that you're wrong to even assume that they would be. Nobody mentioned that they would be. The word kinetic was used over and over again to dispel any notion that they're elastic. So let's say you meant to say not elastic. Okay. Even if the Mach gravity collisions were not elastic, the tons would have to change speed after hitting the object already in motion. So again, he just keeps arguing as if I can't establish something that goes the speed of light and no other speed. That's not, you can't do that. You can't make that thing in the universe. Yet regular physics can do that. They can create space, they can do all kinds of stuff that always moves the speed of light. They can create magnetism that always moves the speed of light. They can create lots of things that always move the speed of light. I'm not allowed to, by whatever the rule is. The John Reynolds I'm a butthole rule. Fuck you. In motion. That's Newton's laws. Well, again, Newton's law wasn't about kinetic collisions in frictionless environments. So Newton's laws, if you make the collisions frictionless in space, let's say, they fit perfectly. So they do obey Newton's laws. If the objects aren't destroyed, they bang into each other, the force will be exchanged, and the two objects will leave exactly as I pointed out. So if you think Gary's Mach gravity works, so again, let's just establish that they use it at university to duplicate, because it duplicates gravity so well, and it's a very simple model. Mathematically simple and visually simple. So it makes gravity really easy to understand. So, so he keeps claiming that somehow it doesn't do that, and that's exactly what it does do. It creates a very useful and functional model of gravity working. Then you might as well believe rockets don't work in space. So again, we've already had that guy on the page. And so again, just a completely idiotic straw man argument. I've never suggested rockets don't work in space. It's that fucktard. I've said exactly the opposite. So deny what I've actually said. Pretend that it's reasonable to speculate that I might believe that when I've explicitly said I don't believe that. So just keep lying some more, liar. And I should have to point this out to the fans of this channel. Well, whatever, there aren't that many fans. I shouldn't have to say this. Say what? You didn't say anything. You made idiotic accusations about what I think that have nothing to do with anything I said, which just makes you a slandering liar. You should be able to think for yourself. Obviously, you can't think for yourself, and everything you think has to come from the authority. So anyway, so on to the blocking. We're done with these assholes now. Alright. So I did give them plenty of extra time to make themselves useful, and they decided to just be insanely redundant. So fuck them. And that'll do, pig. Yeah. Yeah, so that ought to quiet things down for a while. I'll let the Mikul guy still post. I'm just curious about when he's going to get too busy to post. But yeah, I've heard nothing from him on the Michelson-Morley diffraction problem. Yeah. But whatever. The object, my agenda really has to do is try to put this. I thought I had tried to make it simple, but you have to make it really simple. And the concepts just make sense. You just order them in the right order. So it's just a matter of doing that. I mean, first pointing out how push is a simpler concept than pull, and then realize that if you see motion somewhere, that you probably should look for the thing pushing the two things together, not the thing pulling them together. And build on from that. But I mean, once you particularize, quantize gravity, once you make it part of quantum mechanics, it all fits. Polarization. I mean, it's just, I'm sorry, it just all becomes so fucking obvious. So, anyway, I mean, I really should be able to it's just finding people with integrity, and there's just none of that in the world anymore. I mean, somebody posted a link to some asshole called The Real Progressives, and they're these idiots who think deficit spending is okay, and they actually think that like the government should print the money, literally, for expenditures, and that somehow that wouldn't just completely devalue the currency and create insane inflation. Yeah, that's what they think. I don't know, it would just annihilate the poor. Obviously they would get killed faster than the rich would by that inflation. So, just so stupid. I mean, they think there's free lunches, and that's, I guess, what all these arguments are about. All these people want free stuff. They're just really glued on this whole free thing, and they want the universe to be free, and they want us to be free, and they want everything to be free, free, free. Not only free from the requirement to be a civilized, rational, to make a rational argument, but the idea of any restrictions on being a complete asshole, and then they want everything for free. They don't want to have to earn it by having to do thinking, to actually spend 10-15 minutes with a piece of paper and look at it and then say, yeah, does that make sense to me? Instead of being an advocate for it. Like actually reading the Bible before you say God exists. You think that would be a minimum requirement. You'd think that a decent human would say, yes, before I become a prophet, maybe I'll read that silly book that I'm profiting for. But people don't have any of this kind of integrity. And so, that's a horrible burden in terms of a horrible obstacle to have to try to overcome. I mean, it just adds a slimy, puke-covered floor to have to walk across. So, it's just really awful. That you can't just make a rational argument. Because these people just, they're bent. Their brain space is bent. and it's just not pervious to reason. It's only pervious to antics and cartoons and other psychological gameplay. You know, he's one of me. He's on my side, so everything he says I'll be for. He's one of us. He's a NASCAR guy. You know, Trump is for the people. He knows what it's like to be a little guy. And he's such an obviously successful person. I mean, you just can't deny how successful he's been. I mean, the whole way he has made billions of dollars and didn't pay any taxes because he didn't make billions of dollars. He lost a whole bunch of money, and you can use the losses to defer against the taxes on your profits. Wait a minute, how could he be successful? That doesn't make any sense. Yeah. No, see, they don't want to draw that on a piece of paper and say, let's do Trump financing on a piece of paper and see if it makes sense. I've been very successful over the last 20 years. Yet I haven't paid any income tax because I haven't actually made as much money as I lost. So I lost more money 20 years ago than I have made in the last 20 years. But I'm very successful. Very successful. Incredibly successful. So when you have people who fall for that, and then I'm sitting there saying, I'm going to explain physics? No. That is a challenge. But I have no other choice. These challenges are all there are. There's no other game to play except yes, my brain works. I'll try to explain what a working brain sees when it looks at the world. That's all I can do for you people. I can only show you by example how working brains function versus how insanely stupid fucktards function, and what category it looks like you fit in. Shit. Yeah, until next time, such.